The way forward in Iraq is in our nation's security and economic interests to begin to change our strategy in Iraq and initiate a plan for a responsible military disengagement. We have lost 3,530 lives to military operations in Iraq. We have spent over $378 billion, plus the funds that were appropriated in the most recent supplemental bill. Our national debt is rising, and our government is being forced to abandon critical domestic priorities. Our public image to the world has deteriorated drastically and continues to suffer. If we proceed on the current path, we will endanger our nation's long-term competitiveness and well-being. Moreover, political realities in Washington will force change. As we approach the 2008 presidential election campaign, the people of the United States may choose to elect a president that promises an immediate withdrawal. This could be very dangerous for the region and American national security interests. Therefore, it is time to deal with the realities, the inevitability of our eventual disengagement, and begin the planning for a new way forward in Iraq. Military disengagement does not equal abandonment. It is absolutely critical that we avoid being forced into a precipitous withdrawal, whether it is because of world events or our own political atmosphere at home. The dangers of a precipitous withdrawal include the potential destabilization of the region, the disintegration of United States relations with various allies in the region, the endangerment of vital energy supplies in the Middle East, and irreparable damage to the credibility of the United States throughout the world, especially if we leave and a humanitarian crisis ensues. If we lose the opportunity to implement a responsible military disengagement on our own terms, we may find ourselves unable to prevent the aforementioned dangers. Therefore, we must formulate a strategy for disengagement that seeks to prevent these outcomes and protect our long-term strategic interests in the region. While our men and women in the field courageously fight day in and day out complex power struggles in the region and among Iraq's religious sects and political factions continue to undermine American troops, Iraq's elected government has not yet proved capable of forging a political reconciliation and winning the support of these groups. Following the second attack on a Shiite shrine in Samarra, Iraq's government has grown increasingly nervous as political factions split even further. Shiites are now fighting with Shiites in neighborhoods that were previously calm. According to the testimony of numerous experts and officials who have testified to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee, Iraq's problems cannot be solved with a military solution alone. Rather, Iraq's future rests largely on political solutions within the Iraqi government, its perceived leaders, and Iraq's neighboring countries, where American influence is limited. Currently, the only leverage we have to influence these actors and trigger political cooperation is through the presence and/or removal of our military forces from Iraq. Unfortunately, the presence of American forces in Iraq is being exploited by Iraq's political actors, religious sects, and militias, as well as Al-Qaeda, other foreign fighters, and Iraq's neighboring countries. The leaders are not moving quickly to make responsible decisions and change the situation, because the continued presence of American forces fuel their arguments and make compromise unnecessary. Therefore, our best chance of stabilizing Iraq is to develop and implement a strategy for United States military disengagement that is coupled with a robust diplomatic effort to contain instability and protect our interests in the region. It is time the Iraqi government and its regional neighbors take a greater responsibility in stabilizing this situation. Military disengagement is the only way to force Iraq's leaders and neighboring countries to make the difficult decisions needed to create stability and prevent a catastrophe in the region. Only by initiating such a strategy can we hope to achieve all of the following goals. 1. Compel Iraq's leaders and neighbors to take actions that will support stability in Iraq and prevent chaos in the region. 2. Make Al-Qaeda's mission to drive out U.S. forces obsolete, so Iraqi tolerance for Al-Qaeda decreases. 3. Stop terrorist networks from using Iraq's perceived occupation as a recruitment tool. 4. Develop a plan for Iraq that can be endorsed by all of Iraq's neighbors and key international organizations. 5. Agree on a timeline for disengagement that is acceptable to the people of Iraq, blessed by the international community, and easier to implement because it has their support. 6. Protect key American alliances in the region by working with them to develop our exit strategy and working to address their fears and concerns. 7. Preserve American credibility by staying involved in Iraq and focusing more energy on refugee assistance, humanitarian aid, and reconstruction aid. 8. Focus our resources on other fronts in the war on terrorism. And 9. Rest and repair our military forces for potential future conflicts. Military disengagement cannot be viewed as an abandonment of Iraq or our long-term strategic interests in the region. If we pursue a well-developed and comprehensive plan for withdrawing U.S. forces, we will have a better chance of achieving our goals and sustaining domestic support for a continued commitment in the future. Drawing out our current efforts indefinitely will deplete our resources and limit our options when we eventually decide to draw down our forces. By forming the strategy now, time on our side and can mitigate the possible negative consequences of our departure.